welcome back to the deep dive. Okay, so if you're learning how to write for these big academic tests, you probably know this feeling. You find what looks like the Holy Grail, right? A perfect Band 9 sample essay.
Oh, yeah. Everyone's looking for those.
You study it, highlight all the, sophisticated language, you try to copy its density, and then nothing. Your scores just don't move.
Or worse.
Or worse, they get stuck maybe around a 6, or they even start to slide back. It's incredibly frustrating.
It is a massive trap, and honestly, it's one of the biggest hurdles students face everywhere. The statistics, well, they kind of tell the story. The global average writing score, it's stuck at 5.5.
Wow, 5.5 average.
Yeah, but the real fight for you, the listener who's aiming higher, is getting out of that 6.0 to 6.5 zone. It's like students are studying the right result, the Band 9 essay, but they're totally misreading how it got there. The process is what they're missing.
Exactly. They're looking at the shiny surface, the complex words, and just missing the actual foundation underneath. So our mission today is simple. Cut through all that confusion. We're going to show you what high-scoring writing really looks like, what examiners are actually looking for, and crucially, how you can use those Band 9 samples the right way.
It's about strategy, real strategy, not just hoping for shortcuts.
Definitely. Okay, let's unpack this. This Band 9 paradox, as we're calling it. People see an 8 or 9, they see complexity, and they just assume complexity causes the high score.
Instead of seeing it as a result of extreme clarity, perhaps.
Right. The instinct is just cram in academic-sounding words everywhere. Try to impress the examiner.
And that, right there, is probably the #1 reason students get stuck at Band 6. It's fascinating, though, what the really high-scoring students actively avoid.
Okay, like what?
Well, they aren't just rewarded for having complicated vocabulary. They're rewarded for using vocabulary accurately and appropriately. They definitely don't rely on memorized, fancy opening phrases.
Those template phrases.
Exactly. And importantly, they don't write super long essays just trying to show off.
So if it's not about complexity, what is the secret sauce?
Yeah.
It has to be something else. Communication.
It is. It really boils down to clarity. Simple, well-supported ideas presented with really solid structure. When we say simplicity wins, we mean simplicity of thought, clear thinking, not necessarily, basic language all the time.
Okay, clarity of thought. That makes sense. And this is where that classroom experiment you mentioned comes in.
Yeah.
Because that really highlights the paradox.
So it's perfect. So students were shown 2 introductions, right? And they almost always picked the dense, complicated sounding one as the Band 9.
Let's hear them. What did the Band 6 one sound like?
Okay, the Band 6 attempt went something like, in this modern era, the plethora of technological advances have catalyzed societal shifts, rendering traditional paradigms obsolete. Very wordy.
Okay, sounds impressive, but maybe a bit much.
A bit much, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, compare that to the actual Band 9 introduction. Technology is changing how we work. This essay argues these changes are positive.
Whoa, okay. That's direct.
Here.
Honestly, if I were a student, I think I would pick the first one. It sounds so much more academic, doesn't it?
It does. But the Band 9 example is clear, states the thesis right away, and uses common vocabulary effectively. It just shows how that instinct to overcomplicate things actively holds people back.
But wait, I have to ask this, because I know people worry about it. If I use simple, direct words like that, won't the examiner think my vocabulary is, limited? Isn't that a risk for a lower score?
That's a really important question, and there's a crucial difference. Simple language means clear communication. Limited vocabulary means you keep repeating the same basic words over and over again because you don't have alternatives.
Ah, okay. Repetition is the problem.
Yes. Band 9 writers use common words when they're the best fit, the clearest option. But they also show they can use a wide range of more specific vocabulary accurately when the context needs it. The key thing to remember is this. The risk of using a fancy word wrong is much, much higher than any tiny reward you might think you get for using it. Accuracy beats trying to sound advanced every single time.
Accuracy over advancement. Okay, that really shifts the perspective.
Yeah.
So if clarity and accuracy win, how do we actually show that skill to the examiner? Let's move from the why to the how, the mechanics. What are they actually grading on?
Right. This is the roadmap. It's built on 4 criteria, and they're all equally weighted. We call it the examiner's blueprint, or the 25% rule.
25% each. Okay.
Exactly. Examiners have to grade based only on these 4 things. And if you really bomb one area, it can cap your score there and pull the whole average down, no matter how good the others are.
Okay, let's break these down. Pillar 1, 25%. Task achievement. or sometimes called task response. You said this is a really common place for students to lose points.
It is probably the most common and often the easiest to fix, actually. Task achievement just asks, did you answer the whole question, all parts of it? So if the question asks for, say, advantages and disadvantages, and you only write about the advantages, well, you haven't achieved the task. Your score for that part gets capped, probably around a band 6, even if your grammar is perfect. It also checks if your opinion is clear and consistent throughout the essay.
Makes sense. Okay, pillar 2, coherence and cohesion. Now, people often think this just means using linking words like however or furthermore.
It's definitely more than just sprinkling in linking words. Think of it like flow. Logical flow. Cohesion is about how your sentences and paragraphs connect logically. Do they link together smoothly?
So the ideas need to connect, not just the sentences.
Exactly. If the examiner has to stop and reread something to figure out how it connects to the previous point, you've lost cohesion. It's about building a clear structure where each idea logically follows the last one, like a chain.
Right, a logical chain. Okay, pillar 3 is lexical resource. That's the vocabulary part we were just talking about.
Correct. And remember, it measures 2 key things. First, are the words you use accurate for the context? Second, do you show a good range of vocabulary, meaning you're not just repeating the same basic words endlessly? A Band 9 writer uses words fluently and precisely.
Not just complex, but accurate and varied.
Precisely. And the 4th pillar, grammatical accuracy and range. This one kind of covers 2 things, right? Correctness and variety. That's right. Are your sentences mostly free of errors, especially errors that make it hard to understand what you mean? Those really hurt your score. But it's also about showing you can use different types of sentences, not just simple ones like subject, verb, object, but also compound and complex sentences. That's the range part.
Okay, so accuracy first, then range. Got it. Now, you mentioned the exam has 2 tasks. Task 1 is usually describing graphs or charts or maybe a process. Task 2 is the essay, opinion, discussion, problem solution, that kind of thing. Why is task 2 so much more important for the final score?
Good question. It's because task 2 is where you really have to develop an argument, express and support an opinion, and handle more abstract ideas. It's the main place you demonstrate the higher levels of things like grammatical range and coherence.
So it tests more complex thinking and writing skills.
Exactly. You basically can't get a band 7 or higher overall unless you perform well on task 2. That's why it carries more weight and why we usually tell students to focus, say, 80% of their writing prep time there.
Okay, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Focus on task 2. And that brings us right back to busting some myths, because it sounds like students waste a lot of time on techniques that actually go against these 4 pillars.
They really do.
Let's hit the big ones. Myth number 1, you absolutely need advanced, difficult vocabulary to get a band 7.
Totally false. What you need is accurate vocabulary used naturally. I remember this one student, they kept trying to force the word ubiquitous into every paragraph. Yeah. It kind of worked in the introduction, but then in the body paragraphs, it just felt completely unnatural, totally forced. It just screamed, I memorized this word. And it actually hurt their coherence and lexical resource scores.
Right, so natural and accurate. Okay, myth number 2. Writing really complex sentences automatically means a higher score.
Nope. Again, it's about accuracy and clarity. The truth is, you need a mix. Some simple, direct sentences are great for clarity. Then yes, show you can use complex sentences, but only if they are grammatically correct.
Because errors in complex sentences are really obvious.
Extremely obvious, and much more damaging than just using 2 clear, simple sentences instead. The complexity should serve the clarity of your idea, not be there just for show.
Makes sense. And the last big myth, the word count chase. More words must mean a better score.
Oh, this one can be a disaster. Honestly, writing too much usually just leads to repetition or adding irrelevant fluff. Both of those kill your coherence and cohesion score, and maybe task achievement too if you go off topic.
So what's the target?
Aim for the sweet spot for task 2, which is generally around 250 to 320 words. Stay focused, answer the question clearly and concisely. That's far better than hitting 400 words of rambling.
Okay, focus over volume. Got it.
Right.
Let's quickly look at the score bands themselves. What's the real difference, say, between a band 6 and a band 7 based on these criteria?
Okay, so a band 6 essay, it's generally organized, but it might feel a bit repetitive. There will probably be some noticeable grammar or vocabulary errors, but crucially, those errors usually don't stop the examiner from understanding the main ideas.
Okay, understandable but flawed.
Pretty much. Now, when you jump to a band 7, the organization is clearer, the writing is mostly accurate, mostly clear. There might still be occasional errors, but they're less frequent or less serious.
So that jump from 6 to 7 is really about moving from sort of acceptable with noticeable flaws to generally competent and clear.
Exactly. And then, band 9 is basically taking that competence to the next level.
Okay.
Flawless execution. Band 9 is super clear, fully developed ideas answering every part of the task. Vocabulary is used naturally and precisely. Coherence is excellent. It just hits all 4 pillars strongly, flawless or near flawless across the board.
Right. And understanding that difference brings us to what you call the core insight, the mindset shift. Why are so many students stuck, even when they kind of know these rules?
I think it's because, the essay you write is a direct reflection of how you were thinking when you wrote it.
Yeah.
The core idea is writing is thinking made visible.
Writing is thinking. Okay.
So if your essay comes out confused or disorganized, it's usually because your thinking during the planning and writing process was confused or disorganized. We try to fix the writing by just swapping words when often we need to fix the underlying thought process first.
That's huge. And that connects to the 80% rule you mentioned earlier. That mindset and strategy are like 80% of the improvement battle.
Exactly. Your attitude, your strategic approach, how you plan, that's the vast majority of what leads to improvement. It's not just learning 20 new fancy words. You can't really shortcut your way into thinking clearly under pressure.
So the issue often isn't just English ability, it's structuring an argument under exam conditions.
Precisely, especially for task 2. And this is where that 80% rule gets practical. We talk about the 15-minute scaffolding.
Okay, tell us about that. What is a Band 9 writer doing in those first few minutes that a Band 6 writer isn't?
Well, a Band 6 writer might spend maybe 5 minutes planning, jot down a couple of quick ideas, then dive straight into writing and just hope it all comes together.
Sounds familiar.
Right. But a Band 9 writer, or someone aiming for that, might dedicate a full 15 minutes just to building a detailed plan, a scaffold. They're actively thinking about the 4 pillars during planning. They make sure their plan fully addresses every part of the question, that's task achievement. They map out the logical flow for each paragraph, how the ideas will connect, that's coherence. They might even quickly jot down some key vocabulary they want to use, accurately lexical resource, and they think about the main point for each paragraph to ensure the structure is sound.
So the goal isn't just practicing writing endless essays, it's practicing planning them really well first.
Yes. That's often the missing piece. If you know you struggle with, say, coherence, maybe you should spend a whole week just practicing making 15-minute plans for different essay questions. Don't even write the full essay, just nail the plan.
Focus on the weak pillar in the planning stage.
Exactly. Success really needs 2 things. First, you have to be honest with yourself about where your weaknesses are. Which of those 4 pillars is actually holding you back? And second, you need the willingness to work strategically on that specific area instead of trying to fix everything all at once.
And this is where that warning comes in, the one about practice. You said practice without feedback can be dangerous.
It can be worse than not practicing, because if you keep practicing the wrong way, making the same planning mistakes, the same grammatical errors, the same coherence issues, you're just getting better and better at writing a Band 5.5 or a Band 6 essay. You're reinforcing the bad habits.
Ouch. So you need someone, an expert eye, to point out specifically where the plan went wrong or where the coherence broke down.
Yes, targeted feedback is crucial. But the good news is, when students do commit to this strategic approach focusing on clarity, accuracy, structure, planning, and getting that feedback, the improvement can be surprisingly fast.
You mentioned some examples.
Oh, definitely. We've seen students make incredible jumps, like from a 5.5 straight up to a 7.5, or someone stuck at 6.5 hitting a 7, maybe even in just a month or so. These are miracles. They happen when people shift their focus from just writing more to planning better and writing accurately, fixing that 80% mindset part.
That's really encouraging. So for you listening, the big takeaway here is the road to those higher bands like 7 or 8 isn't paved with super complex jargon. It's paved with clarity, solid structure, and really strategic, focused practice.
Stop chasing the fancy words. Start chasing grammatical accuracy and logical flow.
Embrace that idea. Simple, clear thinking, presented with excellent structure and accuracy. That's what impresses the examiner.
Fix the thinking process first, and the writing quality will naturally improve.
Okay, so as you think about this deep dive, and maybe look at your own study habits, here's something to really chew on. If writing truly reflects thinking, and we know the best writers spend significant time planning that thinking, What assumption are you making about test strategy or about learning that maybe needs a rethink? Do you need to stop just writing essays and start fixing your planning process first?
That's a powerful question to end on. What needs fixing before you start the next practice essay?
Definitely something to consider. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.